I just came out of the delivery room, and my mother-in-law told me that my husband had cheated on me. She told me not to let him go and that I had to make sure he left with nothing, and that the child couldn't stay with him. She encouraged me, saying that even as a single mother, I could still live a wonderful life, and she would stay to take care of us. If I hadn't been reborn, I would have really thought my mother-in-law was a good person. When my mother-in-law mysteriously grabbed me and said she wanted to tell me a secret, I knew I had been reborn. As expected, she leaned close to my ear and spoke in a low voice, with a face full of sadness, saying the same thing as in the previous life. "Caroline, Mom found out Bruce cheated on me." Before I could react, she quickly comforted me. "Mom knows you're a good child. Even though you're not my biological child, you're more important to me than my biological son. Divorce Bruce and I'll divorce you too. I'll take care of the children for you. After the divorce, you can go to work without worry. Everything at home will be taken care of by me." Saying this, the mother-in-law pretended to hug me, as if trying to comfort me. "Bruce has wronged you. I'll make it up to you." In my previous life, when I heard my mother-in-law say my husband was having an affair with someone else, I felt as if I had been struck by lightning. I was an orphan who had achieved everything through my own hard work. I had married Bruce because we shared the same aspirations, but I never expected that just after giving birth to our child, I would find out about this. After calming down, I chose to follow my mother-in-law's advice and decisively divorce my husband. The father of a child under 2 is not someone you can easily get rid of, so I naturally took the child with me. After leaving the hospital, I took my mother-in-law back to the house I had bought before getting married. She indeed took good care of her son as she had promised. Even after Bruce remarried and took a new wife, she never inquired about it. Instead, she comforted me, afraid that I would be sad and upset. I was deeply moved at the time, and resolved to treat my mother-in-law as my own mother. Later, my mother-in-law fell seriously ill and was hospitalized for half a year. During the day, I hired a nurse, and at night, I took care of her without taking off my clothes. To make sure my mother-in-law ate a couple more bites of food, I prepared a variety of dishes every day. After 6 months, my colleagues said I looked several years older. But my mother-in-law would praise me to everyone, saying I was more filial than her own son, making sure to look good in front of people. I became the most praised filial daughter-in-law in the area. But it wasn't until 18 years later, when my son got into one of the top universities in the country, that I realized it was all a deception. That day my ex-husband, whom I hadn't seen in 18 years, suddenly appeared with a well-maintained woman. The son who was still cooing in my arms immediately abandoned me and ran to the woman's embrace, affectionately calling her Mom, then turned around and spoke to me maliciously. "You really don't think you, a yellow-faced old hag, could give birth to such an outstanding son? Dragons beget dragons, phoenixes beget phoenixes. Your own son is probably screwing around somewhere." I was utterly bewildered, unable to understand why my son, who was so handsome and talented, was actually putting on an act. "You don't think I really like you, this yellow-faced old hag? You old woman, just die already. Then your savings, your house, will all be ours, for the whole family of 4. I took away his phone for his grades. I stopped him from dating to prevent him from making mistakes. Never did I expect that in the end, these would become the reasons he holds me responsible." After hearing this, the woman patted her son's head, full of sympathy. "Mom bought you the latest model phone. You can play with it as long as you want. My son is exceptionally talented. If he wants to date, he should date. Whatever you do, Mom will support you." Son heard this and was even more moved, showering the woman with endless sweet words. The mother-in-law watched this scene of motherly kindness and filial piety with great satisfaction, then turned to smile at me with a full face of malice. "Caroline, thank you so much for raising Bruce and Eliza's son so excellently." That's when I realized that my own child had been switched with this family long ago. The son I had nurtured with care for 18 years was actually another woman's child. And my own child had been sold by this family 18 years ago. Finally, I was pushed off the high-rise by them. When the police came to investigate, my grown son insisted that I had committed suicide due to depression. When I came back to my senses, the mother-in-law was staring at me suspiciously. "Caroline, I'm talking to you. What are you spacing out about? I made an effort to look hurt and flashed a smile even more miserable than crying at the mother-in-law. Mom, I think I should wait and see. Bruce might have just made a mistake. Grandma immediately got agitated upon hearing this. Caroline, don't let Bruce that bastard off just because of me. You absolutely cannot forgive him for cheating on you. I started crying softly, looking as if my heart had been utterly broken. Mom, can you let me calm down for a bit? After all, I truly loved Bruce back then. Hearing me agree, Grandma was instantly pleased. All right, you think it over. Don't let a little bit of sentiment hold you back for your entire life. Just as she was speaking, Grandma's phone rang. She picked it up, glanced at it, and immediately stepped outside to answer the call. Watching Grandma's guilty expression, I knew exactly who it was without having to guess. Enduring the pain of my C-section, I quietly crept to the door, eavesdropping on Grandma's call with my husband. Bruce, rest assured, as long as Mom is here, she'll definitely make sure you divorce her. Just relax and live a good life with Eliza. Mom will back you up no matter what. Caroline is such a fool. I told her to take care of me and raise her grandchild, and she was so touched. Mom will soon send Caroline's children over to you, and you can handle them however you want. Newborns all look the same, she'll definitely notice nothing. That's right, my dear grandchild, of course, I'll take care of him myself. Most women hemorrhage heavily after giving birth due to emotional distress. Caroline, that heartless bitch, shows no reaction at all. She definitely doesn't truly care about you. Alright, I understand. I still rely on her to support me and my grandchild, so I won't let her die. Listening to my mother-in-law's vicious words, I felt like I wanted to end it all right then and there. But I still have children to take care of. Children are innocent. This time, I must protect my children. Seeing that my mother-in-law had made enough calls, I quickly climbed back onto the hospital bed, enduring the pain. I had just settled onto the sickbed when my mother-in-law returned. Seeing the pale look of my face from the wound pulled by movement, her eyes were filled with satisfaction. Caroline, think carefully about the divorce. I am also a woman, and I know the feeling of being betrayed. Looking at this fake face, I felt sick all over, but to avoid revealing it, I still nodded in response. I'll think about it one last time, just like Mom said. She pretentiously played with the child, deliberately provoked the child to cry, then quickly picked the child up to comfort it. I'll take care of you, don't worry, Mom has experience. The child is too noisy, it's affecting your rest. I'll take it outside to calm it down, and bring it back once it stops crying. Before I could agree, my mother-in-law quickly took the child and left, clearly having been prepared to switch things up. Watching her impatient back, I smirked and picked up my phone, calling my friend who works at this hospital. Hey? Someone has stolen my child. After hearing the whole story, my best friend slammed the table, and said she would immediately help me get the child back. Remember not to let anyone find out. To make that family reap what they sowed, I specifically reminded my best friend. My best friend immediately understood what I meant. Before they had a chance to hand the child over to the human trafficker, she had already swapped my child back. This time, Bruce would personally be selling what would be the jiajing of his love with that Eliza. On the day of discharge, my mother-in-law happily carried the child home to enjoy the good life with me. Yes, enjoy the good life. But that was in a past life. This life, she didn't have that kind of blessing. In a past life, my mother-in-law Dudong proposed to come home and take care of me. But how could I bear to have my mother-in-law take care of me during my postpartum period? I immediately hired a nanny for over 10,000, and my mother-in-law only had to be good with the child. This time, I definitely don't plan to hire a nanny. After the mother-in-law arrived home, she comfortably lay down on the sofa. I immediately spoke up. Mom, this time it'll be a hassle for you to take care of me during my postpartum period. The mother-in-law was visibly taken aback, clearly not expecting me to actually ask her to take care of me during the postpartum period. After all, it had been agreed beforehand that a home postpartum nurse would be hired to take care of me. Before she could speak, I immediately brought up my prepared arguments. There are plenty of places where we'll need to spend money, so we can save where we can. Raising a child is expensive. Everything from food, clothing, housing, and transportation requires a significant amount of money. To give the child a better life in the future, this time during my postpartum period, it'll be a hassle for you, Mom. Words have been said to this extent. Even if the mother-in-law is reluctant, she can only nod. After all, this money saved can be used for her grandson in the future, and she would love for me to save more money. Seeing her agree so readily, I smiled in my heart. Mom, the baby has peed, please change the diaper. Mom, you need to make some nutritious meals and stew some soup for me, like pork rib soup or chicken soup. Anything will do, otherwise I'll be hungry and unable to breastfeed your grandson. Mom, the baby is crying again. Please quickly check what's wrong with the baby. Mom, the baby is allergic to diapers. You can't be lazy and use diapers on the baby. The diapers are in the bathroom. Remember to wash them. In just 3 short days, the mother-in-law was exhausted to the point of having no spirit in her eyes. Early the 4th day, the mother-in-law came over with a smiling face to negotiate. Caroline, maybe we should hire a nanny? I'm getting old and can't handle it anymore. I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of both of you well. Hearing my mother-in-law say that, I seemed very hesitant. But hiring a postpartum nurse for a month costs over $10,000. And if that money is spent on the child will definitely have a brighter future. My mother-in-law's expression changed instantly, but she had second thoughts after not sleeping well these days. Maybe we should hire a cheaper postpartum nurse? I heard that even a few thousand-yuan nurse can do the job. Mom, haven't you seen the news? There was a young couple who, wanting to save money, hired a cheap postpartum nurse. The nurse was only busy playing on her phone and didn't even notice when the child fell off the bed. In the end, the child almost didn't make it. As I spoke, I showed my mother-in-law a news screenshot I had saved specifically. Seeing that it was true, she immediately gave up on the idea of hiring a postpartum nurse. We need to take care of our own child ourselves. I don't trust outsiders. Caroline, we won't hire a postpartum nurse. Watching my mother-in-law treat the child as if it were a treasure, I sneered inwardly. In my previous life, she was just too foolish. She never thought about why she abandoned her own son to follow her. After all, before the wedding, the mother-in-law had looked down on her as an orphan with no family support for Bruce. Now everything made sense, because the mother-in-law wanted her to raise Bruce and the mistress's child alone. They succeeded in my previous life. This time, I wonder what expression Bruce will have when he finds out he sold his own biological son with his own hands. The postpartum period passed quickly, and during this time, Bruce never visited me once, as if the child wasn't his. When I was finally done with the postpartum period, he finally came. He came with a divorce agreement. All marital property belongs to me, and you get nothing. During the postpartum period, the mother-in-law had sneakily mentioned this to me whenever she had a chance, and now I had done as she wished. But Bruce immediately jumped up and refused. Why? What face do you have to ask me for all the marital property? The hard-earned money he had made. Why should it go to this yellow-faced mistress? Seeing his reaction, the mother-in-law quickly signaled him with her eyes, indicating that he should agree. The mother-in-law had already thought up a plan on how to get this money back. In my previous life, I was considerate of the past and didn't let Bruce go out empty-handed. Instead, I left the car under his name. This time, if Bruce wants a share of the property, he's out of luck. The mother and son exchanged glances, and Bruce immediately understood the mother-in-law's meaning. He reluctantly nodded. I'm going out empty-handed, and I won't give you any alimony in the future. Okay, I don't need alimony after all, you can't afford it either. Bruce is a classic example of someone who can't be satisfied. He dislikes high-paying jobs for being too exhausting, and he looks down on low-paying jobs. In the few years they've been together, he's either been changing jobs or on the way to changing jobs, and he often has to rely on her support just to get by. After getting married, he actually started working seriously, but that was because his new company had an attractive receptionist. To be able to see her every day, he worked diligently. Bruce was so angry his mustache twitched, but he didn't even know what to say in return. Seeing him so furious, I felt like I had been blind to fall for him in the first place. Bruce is only a little handsome with his face, and in every other way, he's completely unremarkable. Seeing his twisted expression, I said, "You must pay child support on time every month. It's not much, just $2,000 per month." "Why? Caroline, you bitch. You actually dare to ask for so much? Are you trying to keep me from getting a divorce?" Bruce is really furious now. He instinctively looked at his mother, wanting to ask what was going on. They had clearly agreed earlier that his mother should play the role of a mediator to persuade him to divorce, so why does she need alimony now? His mother hadn't expected this either and could only stammer. "Caroline, Bruce has already agreed to leave everything behind. So why do you still want him to give you monthly alimony? Isn't that a bit too much? $2,000 a month isn't a lot, but giving her the money would mean his mother and son would be very reluctant." I couldn't help but mock. "Mom, didn't you say you would only have one biological daughter in the future, no sons?" As soon as the words left my mouth, his mother didn't dare to say anything nice about Bruce anymore. I sneered inwardly but kept my expression calm and composed as I explained. "Mom, this alimony isn't for me, it's for your grandson." As soon as the child was born, I divorced his father, and there was already a lack of emotional connection. Therefore, I can't afford to be lacking in material support for him. From now on, whatever he eats, wears, uses, and even his school and interest classes must be the best. I can't afford all of this alone. Should I let my child fall behind others from the very beginning? Is this really necessary? The mother-in-law still had some doubts. To get child support from Bruce, that miserly old bird, I patiently explained without getting tired. Your grandson is going to attend top universities like Tsinghua and Peking University in the future. He needs to be nurtured from a young age, and none of his moral, intellectual, artistic, physical, or labor development should be neglected. Seeing that the two of them were already wavering, I sneered. Either we don't divorce, or we just keep living like this. All the money you earn will go to my son. No way. Bruce was the first to disagree. He was still waiting to divorce this yellow-faced old woman before marrying his precious Eliza. Then just give it to me. The mother-in-law was moved by what I said and made a decision. Bruce, pay the child support on time from now on. This is your own son. The three characters' own son were deliberately emphasized by the mother-in-law, and Bruce also understood what the mother-in-law meant. Thinking that someone was devoted to raising his son for him, any discomfort Bruce felt vanished. It's only 2,000 yuan a month, and he could still afford it. His son was going to attend a top-tier institution like Tsinghua University's Beifu, so what was the harm in investing a bit more from a young age? It would all be paid back in the future. After finalizing the divorce agreement and passing the cooling-off period, Bruce and I smoothly obtained our divorce certificates. Getting rid of the scumbag, with the child by my side, and the mother-in-law even offering free childcare. This was a truly worthwhile trade. After recovering from childbirth, I returned to my professional life, living a fulfilling and joyful life. With the mother-in-law taking care of things at home, I felt completely at ease. After all, she considered him her favorite grandson. She would never treat him unfairly, even if it meant being hard on herself. However, the mother-in-law still kept tabs on the property I received in the divorce. Caroline, my friend's son, works at a bank and said they recently introduced a particularly profitable financial product. Or you could transfer the money you received from the divorce to me, and I'll help you buy some financial products so the money can grow. Faced with my mother-in-law's tactics, I countered cleverly. Mom, don't let your friend trick you into boosting her son's performance. Putongrun like us don't understand financial products, and if we lose money, it'll be a big problem. Or you could leave your passbook with me. I'll keep it safe for you, so your friend's son won't try to persuade you to buy all sorts of random investment products, ending up losing your retirement money. In my mother-in-law's eyes, I've always been a very easygoing person. This time, her reaction was immediate and fierce. Are you still thinking about the money in my pocket? Listening to my mother-in-law's tactless words, I immediately expressed my grievances. Mom, what kind of things are you saying? I just wanted to remind you out of concern, fearing you might be deceived. In your heart, do you not consider me your own daughter? I consider you my own mother. Seeing my distress, my mother-in-law realized she had gone too far and quickly backpedaled. afraid she would expose her true intentions. I have no other intentions. If you're willing to take it, just take it. Having failed with one tactic, my mother-in-law started up with another. She would either complain about her back or her legs, leaving the child alone in bed while I was at work. She hinted at her discomfort here and there, hoping I would transfer money to her so she could go to the hospital for treatment. Mom, if you're not feeling well these next few days, I'll have Bruce come over to accompany you to the hospital. I'll stay home and take care of the child. Joke. The mother-in-law has no gratitude for not giving birth to her, no nurturing gratitude for not raising her, and she schemes against her children, still wanting to get money from her hand. Isn't she dreaming? Moreover, Bruce is her biological son, and her biological son is doing fine. Why would she, the former daughter-in-law, need to contribute money and effort? The mother-in-law was stunned. You won't come with me? The child just wasn't born long ago, and it's the weakest time for immunity. If I go to the hospital with you, I might get infected with some virus and pass it on to the child. What then? For the sake of the child's health, I can only apologize to you once. Mom, what's wrong with you? I'll call Bruce right away. Even if we're divorced, he's still your son and you've raised him for decades. He should take care of you. Saying that, I picked up the phone to call Bruce. Wait. The mother-in-law urgently called for a stop, and immediately her waist wasn't sore anymore, her legs didn't hurt anymore, and she leaped up from the sofa to go into the room to pick up the child and comfort him. This is all an old habit of mine, so I won't waste this money. I want to leave it for my grandson in the future. Although this incident is over, the mother-in-law still looks like she's not giving up, her eyes rolling as if she's planning some kind of conspiracy. Thinking of the mother-in-law's shamelessness, I took out the bank card from the safe and went to the bank, depositing all the money from the divorce into the child's name. After finishing, I deliberately showed it to the mother-in-law, clearly stating that the money was saved for the child's future education. The mother-in-law's expression was very complicated. After twisting, it seemed like she gave in again. After all, those words were her own, that she would save all of it for her precious grandson to use. That night, I heard my mother-in-law arguing with Bruce over the phone. The living room had already been secretly installed with a surveillance camera, and at that moment, I was sitting on the bed watching the two of them bicker like dogs fighting over nothing. Bruce started shouting. If it weren't for your suggestion back then, how could I have ended up with nothing but the clothes on my back? It's all because you kept nagging Caroline about it. She took it too seriously, or else the marital property would have at least been half mine. My mother-in-law was furious. If it weren't for your eagerness to divorce, how would I have come up with such an idea? Now you're blaming me. Bruce, on the other end of the line, clearly wasn't having it, and continued relentlessly. I already promised Eliza that as soon as I get this money, I'll take her shopping for a diamond ring and silverware. Now that this money is gone, what will she do if she gets angry? Mom, Eliza has given you a great grandson. You can't just sit back and do nothing about it. The mother-in-law eventually gave in. Mom will figure something out. Unable to get money from me, the mother-in-law had no choice but to dig up her own savings for Bruce. After this, the mother-in-law became quite a bit more obedient, no longer spending her days causing trouble or coveting things that weren't hers, and instead focusing on taking good care of the child. However, every few months, the mother-in-law would take the child out to meet Bruce, under the pretense that the child needed a father's love. In reality, it was to let Bruce and his wife see the child and have the child recognize them. But they were disappointed. This was my own flesh and blood. How could they possibly recognize them as true parents? 18 years later, under my guidance, my son had grown into a handsome and talented young man with excellent academic performance. After the college entrance exams, he was eagerly admitted to Peking University's North Campus. In the end, after discussing it with me, my son chose to study at Peking University. On the day of the promotion banquet, Bruce, my ex-husband whom I hadn't seen in 18 years, appeared at his son's banquet along with the Eliza he mentioned. After 18 years, I saw these two again. Unlike the previous 18 years, this Eliza clearly hadn't been taken care of as well, looking much older. In contrast, I had achieved success in my career over these years, and was willing to spend money on myself. I didn't just look like someone in my early 30s. My vitality and demeanor were far superior to Bruce and his wife's. Eliza happily opened her arms to her son. Son, Mom's here. But in reality, the scene of the mother and son recognizing each other and crying bitterly, as Eliza had imagined, didn't unfold. Her son stood firmly in place, looking at Eliza as if she were a fool. Eliza, confused, kept opening her arms, eagerly waiting for her son to throw himself into her embrace. Son, why aren't you coming over? Are you too excited? It's okay, Mom is here. Today is a big day in your life, Mom wouldn't miss it. Bruce was also shouting nearby. He thought his son was too nervous, which was why he wasn't moving. That's right, son, call Mom. This is your real mom. Caroline isn't your biological mother. The guests I invited were in an uproar, staring in shock at the lively scene before them. My mom is here. Why are you recognizing someone else? The son coldly spoke, clearly not wanting to waste words on the two opposite him. Eliza was stunned on the spot, screaming hysterically. Son, I am your real mother. Did that bitch Caroline lie to you, saying I'm not your mother? How could you not recognize me? You came out of my belly, and your birthright is greater than the sky. You can't be so ungrateful. Come quickly, son, don't stand with that bitch Caroline. You are my son. The son's expression grew colder and colder. What are you talking nonsense about? I only have one mother, and that is Caroline. After being stunned for half a day, the mother-in-law finally reacted. She tugged at her son's sleeve and whispered, Grandson, have you forgotten what I told you? Caroline is not your birth mother. Your mother is Eliza. How can you be so foolish after reading books? Go recognize your mother. The son pulled his hand out of his mother-in-law's grasp, his tone resolute. My mother is Caroline, not Eliza, who gave birth to me. Could I not know that? Looking at his grandmother, who had taken care of him for many years, the son's eyes still held a lot of disappointment. He hadn't expected that his grandmother, who had taken care of him for so many years, would actually team up with outsiders to bully his mother. This is your own mother. How can you treat your own mother this way? You ungrateful son, I'll kill you today. Bruce got angry and quickly rushed forward, ready to give his son a slap. Seeing Bruce coming on so fiercely, I quickly stepped in front of the son. Bruce, this is my son. Dare you touch him? I'll make sure you regret it today. The strength between men and women is quite uneven. And soon I was pulled and thrown to the ground by Bruce. Meanwhile, Bruce raised his hand, ready to slap the son. However, this time he didn't succeed. The teenager, already grown into an adult, grabbed Bruce's hand, stopping the slap mid-air, leaving no room for it to land. In the next second, with a forceful push from his son, Bruce was sent stumbling backward a few steps and fell onto a waiter. The waiter, who seemed to have difficulty walking, ended up in a heap with Bruce. Mom, are you okay? The son helped me up from the ground, asking with concern. I shook my head and looked at the waiter, who had been dragged down by Bruce. His appearance seemed very familiar. But, where had I seen him before? Grandson, what is wrong with you? You know, how could you not recognize your own mother? The grandmother, trying her best to understand, couldn't figure out why things had turned out this way. He had previously told the grandson about his background, and he knew who his biological parents were. Seeing the grandmother's eager expression, I thought it was time they knew the truth as well. Mom, thank you for taking care of my son all these years. I pulled my son to my side. Our facial features were very similar, and anyone could tell we were mother and son. The mother-in-law was taken aback. You how? The mother-in-law couldn't figure out why I was so calm today, while Eliza, who had gone crazy first, had a guess. She rushed over to confront me. Caroline, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? He's your son, then where is my son? Where did you take my son? I found it amusing. Your son? How would I know? I don't even know who you are, and I've never seen your son. How could I possibly know where he is? I couldn't find the answer here. Eliza suddenly lunged forward and grabbed her mother-in-law's hand, demanding, It was you who did those things back then. Didn't you say you had exchanged my son with Caroline? Then where is my son? Her mother-in-law looked utterly bewildered, seeing her son standing beside me, completely at a loss. I exchanged him with you. This is clearly her son. And you still have the nerve to say he's my son? Do you think I'm blind? Discovering her son was missing, Eliza went crazy, shoving and pushing her mother-in-law. Tell me, where is my son? You old hag, where did you put my son? He's the son I went through 9 months of hard labor to give birth to. Her mother-in-law wasn't exactly in a good mood either. Since Eliza had already resorted to violence, she pushed right back. I was always doing things according to what you two wanted back then. Now there's a problem, it's all your fault. Then you had better tell me, where did you put my son? Two people were fighting like mad, scratching and clawing at each other. Watching their crazy behavior, I felt a sense of relief in my heart. Stupid and wicked people will always end up punishing themselves. Bruce, who had fallen to the ground, finally came to his senses. The person standing here was Caroline's son, which meant he had sold his own son back then. He had sold his son with Eliza to human traffickers. Bruce sat on the ground, filled with guilt and madness, slapping himself hard. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. I couldn't even recognize my own son with Eliza. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. If it weren't for my heart being clouded, how could my own son have been sold by me? Sir, let me help you up. The waiter who had been bumped into by Bruce, however, was very patient and tried to help him up politely. But Bruce, in his rage, didn't care about anything and started hitting and cursing the waiter, venting his emotions fiercely. Why wasn't Caroline's son the one who was sold? My son. My son. Where have you gone? I had wanted to go up and rescue that innocent waiter, but after I saw the waiter's face clearly, my desire to help instantly vanished. This face was unmistakably the face of Bruce and Eliza's son from my previous life. Although he was much thinner and darker than in his previous life, that face had long been etched into my memory. It was Bruce and Eliza's biological son. That ungrateful, black and white sheep that can't distinguish right from wrong. Thinking of this, I put aside the idea of helping and calmly watched them bicker like dogs. It wasn't until the police arrived that they ended this farce. It turned out the hotel owner had called the police out of fear of trouble. After finishing the police statement, I came out of the station with my son. Good boy, the promotion party was ruined by them today. Mom will give you another one later. My son shook his head. I don't want to have a promotion party anymore. I want to eat Mom's cooking. We can have a small celebration together. That's the kind of promotion party I want. In September, I started school with my son in the capital. My son went to school, while I became the general manager of the company's capital branch. It was long after that when I heard news from my mother-in-law and her family. They were sentenced to 3 years in prison for child trafficking. My mother-in-law, who had been saving money and not seeking medical treatment for a long time, died in prison less than a year after her sentence. And the white-eyed wolf son from his previous life had his head knocked against the table during Bruce's beating. Even though he was promptly taken to the hospital, he became a complete idiot. After serving 3 years in prison, Bruce received a notice that the son he had personally sold had been found. The couple rushed to the police station in a hurry, only to discover that the waiter he had accidentally beaten into a fool was actually his own son with Eliza. Before he could react, Eliza had already rushed at him, scratching and clawing. Bruce, 20 years ago you personally sold your son, and 3 years ago you ruined him, making him an idiot. You pay me back my son. You pay me back a healthy son. Bruce's conditioned reflex was to cover his head and flee in panic. When he came to his senses, he remembered that it was Eliza who had first asked him to exchange sons. Instantly furious, fueled by the anger from his 3 years in prison, he growled fiercely. If it weren't for your terrible idea back then, how would I have ever thought about swapping my son? It's your fault for selling my child to me. Otherwise, how would my son have had to suffer so much? The two of them fought like dogs, beating each other until they were both bruised and swollen. Meanwhile, the couple's foolish son stood to the side, clapping his hands happily and watching the fight, muttering, "Good fight, good fight." Bruce saw his long-awaited son, who was now drooling, and felt even more regret. Pa, if it weren't for you goying me, how would I have divorced Caroline and ended up with such a fool as a son? It's all your fault, you bitch. We both had children. Why did Caroline's son get into Tsinghua? Bruce, how dare you talk about my son like that? Due to the very bad impact caused by their fight at the police station, they were detained for 15 days. The incident, being too explosive, made it onto social news. When the son saw me coming home with groceries, he quickly turned off the TV and got up to take the items from my hands. "Mom, I'm cooking today, you should enjoy your son's favor." The son didn't know, but I had heard it when I was grocery shopping. Bruce's family is infamous, and everyone curses them. I looked up at the figure bustling in the kitchen, feeling even more content. The word happiness has now also been felt by me.